The other coach up in Indiana that is fumbling the bag is Indiana's Christy Sides. Fam, somebody in the WNBA needs to intervene and get her ass up out of there ASAP because she is messing up the cash cow. Somebody, can I get some birthday love first and foremost? You know, Gemini Gang Gang, May 27th. Yeah, give me all the love.
Happy birthday. You are a Gemini.
That's right.
And now you're old too, so that's a double whammy.
I'm not old, but I do want to shout out Bill Walton, rest in peace, A Peaceful Transition. It's one of my favorite broadcasters of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and just a phenomenal person. So with that said, I'm ready to talk sports. Let's get into our first story of the day.
Rodney, it's happening. Bronny James will forego his remaining college eligibility and stay in the NBA draft. James had a pretty successful draft combine, scoring 13 points in one of his scrimmages. He was a little shorter than a lot of people expected at 6'1", but he had a 40.5-inch vertical, and that was the fourth highest in the combine among the participants. So Bronny enters the draft rated as the 54th best prospect after averaging 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.3 assists per game last season for USC. Now, his father LeBron has until June 29th to decide on his $51.4 million player option with the Lakers, and that, by the way, is just 2 days after the NBA draft wraps up. So this one is a two-parter, Rodney. How high do you feel like Bronny will get drafted, and will LeBron stay in LA?
Okay, that is a great two-parter. I'm going to answer the first one. Bronny will go as high as people believe they can entice LeBron James to play for their team, right? So he had 10 workouts scheduled. He canceled all 8 of them, so he's only committed to workouts for the Phoenix Suns, who are drafting at 22nd in the first round, and the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, which are drafting, I believe, 54th, if I'm not mistaken, or 55th, something like that. I'm just going to be 34th or 38th, something like that. But I feel like, so Bronny at the start of the combine was the 98th rated prospect. Coming out of the combine, he's the 54th rated prospect, right? So that tells me people are very impressed. And this is a kid, again, who's coming off of cardiac arrest, who didn't really have a full offseason to fully glue with the USC Trojans. And so he is showing his measurables, maybe not as physically tall or off the charts, as a fast twitch athlete, as an elite shooter and decision maker. I feel like Bronny is really going to have a strong role in the NBA. And then as far as Bron, man, Rich Paul already announced that he's essentially a free agent at this point, but I don't think he's going to leave LA. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I'm going to agree with you on both of those. Let's go back to Bronny. I feel like he took full advantage of his combine opportunity.
Yeah.
We on this show, I didn't necessarily agree with him getting that opportunity, right? But I'll eat my words. He took full advantage. I got to give the kid that. The biggest question is he ready? And unfortunately, we won't know the answer to that until he gets that opportunity to play in the National Basketball Association, right? Okay, so now you also have to think about who's going to give him that opportunity. How high is he going to go? Rich Paul has made it clear that his client is not playing in the G League. He wants to play on a team. I think that LeBron is going to go where Bronny goes. I think that he's going to. I do. I think that he's going to go, especially because it just works out that way. I really do. I mean, you have the draft. He has 2 days to think about it.
Yeah, but
and I think he's going to go wherever Bronny goes.
Let's say the Phoenix Suns take Bronny at 22, right? You feel like LeBron is going to play for the league minimum? Like, granted, he's a billionaire already, but I just can't see somebody foregoing that much money, even to do something as amazing as play with your son. I can't see LeBron doing that. At the end of the day, he is a businessman. Rich Paul is a businessman, and we all know that business is rooted in who is earning the most. And LeBron James is one of the all-time greatest players in our league. He is, at this juncture in his career, he's not taking a pay cut of that magnitude. That's like damn near $48 million that he'd be giving up. I just can't see that happening.
But see, you just kind of answered the question. He has made his money. Right now, he will be able to do something that money can't buy.
No.
Able to play.
The next thing LeBron wants to buy is an NBA team. So he needs every dollar, okay? He wants to own that franchise in Las Vegas. So that means he's going to have to continue to put some money in his pocket. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just think that he's going to have to really sit down with his family and have a hard conversation. Do I want to make $51.4 million, or do I want to go take the league minimum and be able to do something that money can't buy, and that is play in the NBA with my son? His time is winding down.
It's a cute story.
He got
but I
to
don't
do
know.
it. Y'all let us know what you think down below.
In its about damn time news, Major League Baseball has decided to incorporate the stats of players from the Negro Leagues, which is finally allowing some of the greatest to ever do it to be seen and revered in the same light as their white peers. In a statement celebrating the news, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said, "This initiative is focused on ensuring that future generations of fans have access to the statistics and milestones of all those who made the Negro Leagues possible and the path that led to Jackie Robinson's 1947 Dodger debut." Samaria, what are your thoughts on the stats of Negro League players finally being validated by the MLB?
Oh, yeah, this is wonderful. I've done so many stories on former Negro League players, a few of them still alive today. All they wanted was to be included. Really, they wanted to be able to play in the MLB. Obviously, didn't get that opportunity because of discrimination and racism. And so for them to have their stats now included, that includes them in the conversation. Some of them taking over stats that were held by other great white players. You can see back here, I have Hank Aaron when he played for this is the Cleveland Clowns. And so this is when he was probably playing some of his best baseball. And some of those stats will now also be included because they're with the Negro League. So this is just exciting. And I'm just thrilled to be able to have that.
Yeah, Josh Gibson overtakes Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth in a couple of different statistical categories. And again, Samaria, my question is, do you feel like there are people who are going to be out there that are upset by the fact that now black players are going to be included in record books, right? Which means that a lot of white players who have always been regarded as the best baseball players who have ever lived, they will now be looked at as inferior players to the Josh Gibsons of the world, to the early Hank Aarons of the world. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, for sure, because if you think about it, Josh Gibson's great grandson has been kind of fighting the charge to get these stats. I mean, when you talk about Negro League, he's one of the faces that you see. And for years, they've been doing something behind the scenes because we're just now getting it in 2024. So someone isn't in agreement with it. But I do feel like this is a step forward for MLB. They're taking accountability that black athletes had to go out and create their own league because they were not allowed to compete.
Listen, if you weren't competing against us, then you weren't competing against the best. And so that's just, there has to be some credence to the fact that, the black athlete is phenomenal, right? And these men were going out and creating these leagues. There were many Negro leagues, and there were Negro League World Series, right, that were played in a number of years. But the players that donned these uniforms in the Negro Leagues, right? They've already, some of them, been acknowledged in the Baseball Hall of Fame, right? There's 37 players who are in the MLB Hall of Fame, which is phenomenal. And so if you're going to have those players in the Hall of Fame, it doesn't make sense to not then include their statistics in MLB's historical records. And so I'm really glad and happy to see this is finally happening. They never let me wear my Negro League hat on the show. I have hella Negro League apparel because growing up, man, my mom and my stepfather, they showed me that there were so many black people in this country who weren't given the opportunity to compete and put themselves against who everybody else perceived as the best. And so for these men to finally be recognized, it really does something to my soul and spirit, especially having gone to a HBCU. So thank you so much, MLB, for finally getting something right.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be the first of many. I know for Nashville, they are actually, if they get an MLB team here in the city, it will be named the Nashville Stars after the Negro League team.
That's fire.
Shout out to them. Yes.
That is fire. But yes, definitely let us know your thoughts about the MLB finally acknowledging the statistics of Negro League players.
So two-time Olympian Gabby Douglas has withdrawn from competition at the U.S. Gymnastics Championship this weekend, citing an ankle injury. This has ended her bid for the 2024 Paris Olympics. Now, Douglas returned to the sport after an 8-year hiatus. She was looking to become the oldest gymnast to compete in the Olympics since 1952. She became the first black gymnast to win the Olympic all-around title at the 2012 London Games, and then she helped the United States earn back-to-back team golds in London and then in Rio in 2016. And to me, Rodney, this is the end of a legendary career for Gabby Douglas. Do you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I feel like she is a generational athlete. She is someone who will define what it means to be a gymnast. Right. I'm really glad that she was able to overcome some of those early, just mean, evil things that people were saying about her hair. You know what I mean? Like, she had so many things she had to overcome in order to continue to flourish in her sport. I'm really proud of the career that she has had, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that some of those things are the reason why she did take that 8-year hiatus to kind of get right mentally. And so it's really a tough blow to see her drop out like this because of an ankle injury, because I felt like she was one of the front runners, even though she is older. I know for me, like before Simone Biles, it was Gabby Douglas that introduced me to the sport of gymnastics. And then I think like for Black girls, yeah, we like fell in love with the sport and was truly interested. But so it does say for now, she does plan to recover and train for the LA Olympics in 2028, and then she'll be 32 years old. So I think that for sure will be a record, and that'll be really interesting to see. I know that Simone Biles will continue to compete as long as she can compete because she's amazing. But for Gabby, I think this may be the end of her legendary career.
Yeah, competing at 32 in the Olympics as a gymnast, I mean, that would for sure be unprecedented. If that's something that's on her heart, by all means, we're seeing Black women do so many amazing things, whether it's Serena competing while she's pregnant, and the list goes on and on and on. So if that's something that she feels she's capable of doing, by all means, I wish her well with that. But that's a tall task right there. But she has really done the community a phenomenal service by inspiring so many young Black girls. And if this is the end for her, what a phenomenal career she's had. And I've been a huge fan of hers, just in how she's overcome some of the obstacles that she had to deal with early on in her career. So shout out to you, Shorty. You're amazing.
And honestly, I don't think that she got the flowers that she deserved back then, but I do feel like her announcing that she's not going to be able to compete in the 2024 Paris Olympics, she's definitely getting her flowers now. And so I'm really happy for us, the media, fans, everyone kind of taking the time to congratulate her on this legendary career.
Also, I'm really glad that we never pit Gabby Douglas against Simone Biles. You know, like there's a thing that happens quite often when there are two exceptional Black women competing in a similar space. And so I'm really glad that narrative never formed, and both women were able to excel and expand the sport. So shout out to both of them. Let us know your thoughts on Gabby Douglas's pending retirement, unfortunately due to an ankle injury. All right, so from time to time, we're going to be highlighting some comments left under our videos or social media pages that we feel may need a direct response from us. So leave a comment for us, and you may end up getting a response. This week, we got to address a comment about the Caitlin Clark story that we covered just last week. So Steve Kerr, 5084, said, skip the sophomore talk about looks. She's a great player. She'll just get better. A lot of the talk is about petty racism, and I thought it was about merit all the while. Go figure. I don't need to watch this league. Adios, amigos. Samaria, what are your thoughts? He kind of confused me there, too. I can tell by your face you're a little thrown off by where he went at the end of that. Yeah, like, what are your thoughts on that response there from Steve Kerr?
We talked about this. Literally, we said the exact same thing that Mr. Kerr is talking about in this comment, that there are so many Caitlin Clark fans that feel like the WNBA is out to get her. And that's just not true, Mr. Steve. I'm sorry. Like, we only brought up looks because that's what some people were saying on some talk shows, that it was pretty privileged. None of us agree with that. We agree that she has the talent. It's just going to take her a little bit of time to adjust. I'm kind of reading back. She'll get, okay, yeah. So petty racism,
there has been, to his, let me acknowledge, I guess, some of the things that he's seeing online, because there have been quite a few narratives and conversations that have been brought up about Caitlin Clark. There are a lot of people who seem to think that the celebration and championing of Caitlin Clark is only due to her whiteness. And this is a league which is predominantly Black, as we all know, right? So there are a lot of people who feel like there were other athletes who should have been held and heralded just as much as Caitlin Clark has been in her short, month and a half long year, month and a half career. And so I do have to give some credence to that because there is quite a few conversations that are taking place, especially online. But I don't think this is a reason to abandon the league. I think this is the first time that we have storylines that actually feed into some of the narratives that shape the NBA, right? From like the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird standpoint. The racial component is something that does drive viewership. I think that they should continue to amplify Caitlin Clark, not just because she's white, but because she's a phenomenal athlete who happens to be white in a sport that is dominated by black athletes. And I think that does create an additional level of interest and investment by viewers.
Yeah, you wrapped that up great because I was a little confused. Mr. Steve.
I got you. But shout out to you, Steve. We appreciate your comment and we appreciate you watching the Fumble, fam. Good looks. All right, Samaria. So Fumble of the Week this week is going to professional basketball coaches up in Indiana. Both of them, all right? Now, first up is Pacers coach Rick Carlisle, who blew game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals by not calling a timeout on an inbounds play, which led to a turnover and game time 3 by Jaylen Brown. For the record, he should have instructed his team to foul. He didn't. It is what it is. But he did have a chance to redeem himself in the eventual closeout game 4, but instead allowed Andrew Nembhard to go 1-on-4 for a chance to tie the game. And listen, I like Nembhard. He has been hooping all series, but he got plucked like a baby chicken by Jrue Holiday, and that was the end of the game and essentially the series. Granted, the Pacers were in game 4 without Tyrese Halliburton, but I just expect a little bit more from a championship-winning coach. And family, that is what Rick Carlisle is. Now, the other coach up in Indiana that is fumbling the bag is Indiana's Christy Sides. Fam, somebody in the WNBA needs to intervene and get her ass up out of there ASAP because she is messing up the cash cow. Her post-game comments, Samaria, routinely have a little drizzle of hater on top of them, and I don't really use that word too often, but I feel like there should never be a game in which Caitlin Clark shoots anything less than 18 shots, right? Unless she's being triple teamed. I mean, the Fever are garbage. But your job now, fam, is to coach Caitlin Clark's talents. Any system that you had in place before does not matter because that's the system that got you the #1 overall pick the last 2 years. So that's out the window. You've now changed Caitlin Clark's pregame warm-up to focus on mid-range jump shots? Like, are you okay, Christy Sides? Listen, if your team is not going to be Caitlin Clark-centric, then prepare to be on the unemployment line. I just don't understand what she's doing up there in Indiana, Samaria, and those are the people who get Fumble of the Week for me.
And actually, you can throw in Hoosiers head coach Mike Woodson in there too.
Nah, leave Mike out of this. I like Mike.
But no, oddly enough, I kind of feel bad for Christy because
What?
I do because I feel like obviously they've been tanking, and I think that's coming from front office. Executives are telling them to tank so they can get, that's what I think, so they can get these #1 picks, but then they're not doing anything with them. And then I also see that it's going to take them a little bit to kind of get adjusted. We see Aaliyah Boston kind of struggling to get adjusted with maybe the addition of Caitlin Clark. I'm not really sure what's going on.
But there's a classy way to tank. The classy way to tank is to let Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. Don't try to change her game and tell her she needs to shoot more mid-range jump shots. That is not what fans want to see when they watch Caitlin Clark play basketball, right? Like the best way to tank, I feel like, is to just put the ball in your #1 draft pick's hand and just see what happens from there. We saw it happen 2 seasons ago with the Houston Rockets, right? Jalen Green, they just put the ball in his hands, let him do whatever he wanted on the court, and now the Houston Rockets are actually quite formidable, right? Next year we expect them to be a playoff team. I don't like what Christy Sides has been saying about Caitlin Clark. I don't like the way that she's been pulling her out of rotations in critical moments of games. I just don't understand her strategy at all. It's actually quite frustrating to watch as a fan of the WNBA and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Do you feel like maybe Christy feels obligated to share some of the playing time or limelight with some of her other players that have been there?
Samaria, there is one Caitlin Clark, okay? You have a chance to attach yourself, to tie yourself at the hip to a generational talent who is completely changing people's interest in the league. Do not pull her out when she has 30 points, okay, in a closeout situation and put her back in with 2 minutes left. It's just not what fans are wanting to tune into. It's not why people are paying prices to pay league pass prices for the WNBA. This is not what people want to see. This is not what the WNBA needs, okay? Play the girl, let her do whatever she wants to do. Let her shoot long-ass threes and let that be that.
Okay. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm going to stop playing devil's advocate. She's not that great. Sorry, Christy. All right, y'all let us know if you agree with Rodney's take, but that is all that we have this week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Fumble. Please put that bottle down. And make sure that you subscribe to all of our social media platforms and at The Fumble Sports on Instagram. And then, of course, we're here every day with Jackie Ray. And then right here on Fridays with The Fumble with me, Rodney, and his big-ass water bottle.
We out of here. Peace.